Hey, I just thought I'll give you guys a story time. I am 30 years old at the time of this recording. I am a father of a beautiful 6-year-old girl. I am unemployed at the moment. I am really nervous for the next chapter, but I'm also quite excited. The reason why I am here, like I said at the start, is to give you a bit of a story time. I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa. My mum was married to a really handsome man, as she tells me all the time. He was part of the military. For all the differences, he was said to be a great guy. Basically, because of some personal reasons, my mum should be the only one to share that story. She fled from Sierra Leone from her marriage. In doing so, we went to another country called Ghana, and that's where I spent most of my adolescent years. It was just my mum, my brother, and I. She was trying to find a better way of life. I was probably between 2-4 years old, give or take. Mum made friends with a young man, a really kind man, whose name is Kanu, and that's where I get my name from. As a result of running away from her past, she decided that I would take on her best friend's name. There was no relationship there. It was just like a brother and sister relationship. But he basically looked after her, myself and my brother, and just so she can move forward, she decided to take on his last name. That's where I get my name Kanu from. I remember as a little kid, Mum would go into the city to sell products, sell things, so she can have money, buy food to feed us. She would leave my brother and I in the care of neighbours or friends and should go sell things. If she didn't, she would go and plait hair. She'd do that and get paid a certain amount of money. Whatever she got for that day, she would then take to the market and buy food for the couple of days or for the week, depending how well that went. Unfortunately, in one of those instances, I remember a bit of it. Mum later told me the story in full. I just remember segments of it. How it goes is Mum was hanging out with some friends and I was playing with their kids and having a good time. Mum wanted to go and pick something up somewhere where she'd step away for a little bit. So she said to me, "Come on, David, let's go pick this thing up and you can come with me." And the friends are all sitting there. "Oh, the kids are having fun. Leave them, let them have fun, let them play. They're having a good time." And Mum reluctantly was like, "Oh, are you sure?" She's like, yeah. They were like, yeah, let the kids play. Mum said, "Okay, well, David, I won't be long. I'm just going to go quickly and grab something and I'll be back." Now, just for context, she would have been gone for maybe 30 minutes to an hour. So she left me there and I was playing with the kids. This is what Mum told me after the fact. But basically she went and did what she had to do. And then maybe an hour, and a little bit after, she came back to, where I was, where she left me. And she said, "Thanks guys for looking after my son. Oh, my sons, where are they?" They looked at her bewildered and confused and shocked. Like, "What do you mean?" Mum's like, "Oh, I left my kids here with you because I just, stuff you guys said to live with kids." And they're like, "No, you didn't leave your kid with us." Mum was like, "Haha, stop joking, stop making a joke." And they were like, "No, your kid's not here. I don't know what happened. Your kid's not here." And then, it dawned on Mum that, hang on, something's not right here. And they saw black and blue that I was not left there, I was not there at all, that, Mum must have taken me or I must have gone somewhere. And Mum was like, "No, I left my sons here. I left them here." And they're saying, no, he's not here. Mum lost his mind. And she looking everywhere for me, couldn't find me. Mind you, I was lost for, I believe, 3 days. Mum could not find me. So she'd go to these people's home and she would say, "Where's my son? Where's my son? Where's my son?" And they would basically shut the door and ignore Mum. Mum would go there with pots and pans standing at the bottom of the building, and because it was, I believe she said it was a multi-story building, so she would stand there and she would smash the pans together. "Give me back my kid, give me back my kid." She did this for 3-4 days, and they kept on, she'd wake up early in the morning, go to their house and do it pretty much all day. And they would just do the same, ignoring her and pretending that I wasn't there. And then on the 5th day, they just had enough. The husband, actually, the woman is like, listen, give this woman back her son. She's never going to stop. Like, you can give her back or tell her where her son's gone. So, obviously eventually this woman comes down and says, okay, fine, your son is actually being held somewhere. I'll tell you where it is. I'll show you where it is. And so she takes mum to the place. I don't want you to misunderstand this. Her telling mum where I was not her finding a heart or being a good person. There was no chance of mum ever finding me, because now thinking back and looking back and using a bit of a liberty myself, how I imagine is, what mum explained to me and how I imagine it is, it's an area where it's fenced off. There's an entry, but there's lots of kids hanging out, and it's almost like a kids processing center. Without saying what it is, I think you guys can sort of guess what I'm saying. It's a kids processing area where kids from all walks of wherever they've got them from will just sit there to then be transported to wherever else they were going to transport them. So this woman now finally telling mum where I was, it wasn't her from a kind who was actually going, that she was very confident that even if mum went to Paris, because I was still of it, it probably all would have looked the same. It would be hard for mum to spot her child among all the sea of kids and things like that. So it was more her calling mum's bluff and going, well, you never find him now anyways, but I'll show you, but there's nothing you can do. And how it works is, you'd go there, and obviously if you found that your kid were there and you were able to find your kid, they'll give it to you because it's this whole, you've called them out, you found it out sort of thing. These things are usually done in darkness or done in sort of quietness or secret. So kidnap your kid, and then you look and won't find them, and the kid's gone. Some people are lucky enough to sort of find this area and then go, no, that's my kid, don't take my kid. And they'll, obviously you can threaten them, getting the police involved in things, and they'll fine, you can take your kid or whatever. But it's a thing that goes on. Now, obviously, this is Africa, so it's not the same legal system as here, so please understand that. Anyway, mum and this lady go there, and they're standing at the fence looking in at all these kids from different ages, different heights. She's looking, trying to spot me, and they're going, well, see, your son's not here. Well, let's go, their son's not here. She's looking, and then she spots a little peanut-shaped head, little 4-year-old David far away somewhere by himself, and she's like, that's my son. That is my son. And the woman's going, oh, it can't be. They all look the same. How do you know it's your son? He's like, no, I know my son. That's my son. She screams out my name, David. Now, all this I don't fully remember. Maybe it's a form of my body or my brain protecting me from this. That's probably why I don't remember it. But apparently I looked up, I heard mum calling, and I ran towards the fence. And I said, Mum, they took me. She's like, yeah, I know. So they take me, they grab me and take me out to her. And I keep saying to Mum, they took me away. They took me far away. They took me away. And Mum's like, yeah, I know. Okay, no, it will never happen again. Mum's sobbing, crying her eyes out and unconsolable. And, Mum embraces me tightly. And I'm reunited with my mum. Now, that story sort of shaped my mum and I's relationship for the future. So from that day on, I was never more than 2 steps away from mum. Whatever mum was doing, wherever mum was going, I was right there. Everything she did, we did it together. If mum's having a shower, I'm in the cubicle with her, sitting there while she's doing it. She's never far away from her. If she has to do an errand, I'm there 24/7. My brother and I were always there 24/7. And as a result, that created a hyper vigilance from my mum that then meant that she was very much always on edge. She never trusted anyone, family or friends. And I was never left to my devices or just left alone. We lived in the capital city of Ghana, Accra, in this sort of like compound. And I remember there was a massive mango tree there that overflows with mango. Like it's always falling off the tree and all the ground. And I remember the sweet smell of the mango. And if you ever wanted a quick snack, you just sort of like, it's just in your backyard. You just go and pick it up from the tree, or if there was one that's sort of freshly fallen down but was still good, you just grab it, wash it and eat it. I remember playing with other kids, obviously with mum close by, with my brother. I also remember another story where I was in the room with mum and one was getting ready to go somewhere. And I was on the bed jumping up and down as kids do. And mum said to me, David, stop jumping. You'll hurt yourself. No, Mum, I won't hurt myself. I'm fine. I'm jump. I'm like, hey, listen, you'll hurt yourself. No, I'm okay. I'm gonna jump. And then what do you know? She said to me 3 times. I jumped one more time, and I misjudged it, obviously as a kid, and then springed off the bed and fell on the ground and broke my left arm. And she looked at me, and anyone that knows a African mum knows that you don't get sympathy from that. if she said to you, she looked at me and said, "See, so what you've done? I told you break your arm. All right, let's go to the hospital." She takes me to a hospital. And to this day, Mum claims that she would have stepped in if I'd made the wrong decision. But basically, we get to the hospital and the doctor, does what they're going to do and say, "Yeah, you've broken it. We have two options now." I don't know if this was a joke. All right, listeners, let's hit pause for just a second. I know you're deep into this episode. Just a friendly reminder to keep an eye on your surrounding, whether you're running, jogging, or cruising along. Safety first. Thanks for tuning in, and don't worry, we'll jump right back into the good stuff. Or if it's serious. So I don't know if they were both in on it, and she hasn't confirmed it for me, but a doctor looks at me and says, "Oh, yeah, it's really bad, David. Well, you have two options. We can either put it in a cast or we can chop your arm off." There's a bit of a pause. The doctor looks at my mum, then looks at me. I look at my mum. I look at the doctor. Mum looks at the doctor and then looks at me. He's like, "Well, David, it's your choice. What do you want to do? Chop your arm off or put it in a cast?" Now, as a kid, I'm a kid. Surely that's something kids just don't even know the gravity of it. Anyway, I looked at it and I looked at them and I'm like, "No, I don't want to chop my arm off. Just, put it in the cast." And I remember walking away, and every time I think about it, I looked at Mum and was like, "Mum, what would you have done if I'd said chop my arm off?" She's like, "Oh, I wouldn't have let that happen." I was like, "Oh, I don't know." But yeah, that's like a fond memory that I have of her. And to this day, I still hold it against her. You don't give a kid that decision. That is a huge decision for a kid to make. And I think that was poor parenting 101 there. Anyway, they put it in a cast, and I've actually got a photo of it. Me with my mum in a cast, holding my cute little brother, smiling. But I remember that memory quite fondly of my mum. Now, then, because obviously Mum, now it's just Mum, myself, and my brother. And the next step was moving on. She wanted to find a better life for us. So that meant seeking resettlement. Mum heard of a place called, I think it was Zanzuli. I think it's what it's called. Forgive me if I've said that wrong, but I think it was Zanzuli. Basically, she found out about it, and it's just a camp where you go there and start a life, but you also file for resettlement in the hopes that one day you'll be approved and get resettled into another country. So Mum found out about it, so we somehow got into the program and we moved to Zanzuli camp. It's in Accra still, but it's like one of the little villages in Accra. It's off the long road. I would say from Zanzuli camp to the city of Accra, it would probably be an hour, maybe two. Anyway, we moved there, and Mum, myself and my brother, we started a new life. So basically, some people, when they move to the resettlement camp, they create a business. They'll organize with a business in the city where they'll sort of organize getting produce or things from them. They'll buy it at a certain price at a lower cost, and then they'll obviously get it sent to the camp, and then they'll have an area where they sell it at a lesser price to everyone that lives on this camp. The camp was a space that, it was, I don't know the history of it too much, but basically it was just, there was lots of different buildings where people lived in, and then people would add extensions to it. So you'd probably go to the bush, get some timber, and you'd chop it down and you'd build an extension around in an area for yourself for privacy and things like that. But from what I remember, it was basically, if you just imagine like a concrete building where it's just just a big, like it's a box. It's just like this little square, and then there's electricity, one light. So obviously it was only used for like sleeping, and then people will get the timber and build like a perimeter around it to sort of have it fenced off, and then they'll put a bit of like a roofing, so then it can be in it and hang out within their house, but then not in the actual concreted area. And then there were spaces that were cleared out, and there was a school there. I have to look back on that. I'm not too sure. But yeah, it's just, if you imagine a camp where people just basically, they make it their place, they make it their own. It's not at all like what you see in World Vision or anything like that. It's actually quite different because there's electricity and there was pump with running water. So you always had water, and there was always fresh produce in the sense of you live off the land. That's the difference between, say, Australia, anywhere else in the world versus places in Africa. Basically, everything is natural. It's from the ground to the man sort of thing. So People will have like hobby farms, or they'll go into bush and create farms. So they'll have like potatoes, sugarcane trees, coconut, mango, banana trees and things like that just there. So if you really wanted something, it's just growing there in the backyard. You just go and pick it off and eat it should you need to. And then obviously people also had, so not everyone that was on the camp was seeking resettlement. Some people were just fine to sort of live there. Some people were part of the system where they basically created an environment so that we can thrive in some ways. So that, they'll have a agreement with the government, I suppose, with whoever was running it, where they can have things there to sort of make our time there a little bit easier. So there was a cinema hall, as we call it, where basically it was just a projector cinema. There was lots of different things to do, and it was huge, this camp, and it was sectioned off into letters of the alphabet, different areas. So one area would be called Area A, another area would be Area C, Area D, and so on. So basically, that's how they'd sort of recognize you. They would identify you. And how it would work is, again, I can't remember the frequency. You'd submit your application to get resettled. Then that'd be processed. And then the representative of different countries will look at it and then choose to have you or your family come resettled into a better country. So the countries were Australia, Norway, America, and I think Canada as well. And you get to say where you'd like to go, but basically at the end of the day, it was up to whoever was choosing you to make that decision. So, that's the point of being on a camp. So obviously, all three, Mum, myself, and my brother, moved to the refugee camp, and we started a life there. I went to the school that was there, where I got caned for pretty much all of my adolescent years, because I was a cheeky little, funny little, black boy. And as a result of what happened in that past, I was never far away from Mum. Went to school there. We played soccer. I met a friend there whose name was also David. He was my best friend. We got into trouble. There was a church there. And even despite Mum not having much, she always made sure that we had really good church clothes. A lot of people that were part of the church would always be jealous of Mum. How are you, a single mum? Your kids always look good, dressed well and stuff. Mum always instilled in me from a very young age presentation, and how you want to be seen or approach is how you dress. She instilled in me presenting yourself well. Just because you're without, less fortunate, doesn't mean that you have to be poor. But anyway, there's more to the story, but I've already kept you guys going for 20, 25 minutes, and I don't want this to go too long, so I'll wrap it up with a few things. Basically, just to summarize everything. Next podcast, I will continue on from here and go on to the next part of the resettlement process. But I suppose from my very young age, what I saw of my mum, and because I wanted to explain as a man what I got from it, because this is the point of this podcast, seeing my mum struggle, seeing my mum work so hard day in, day out, seeing my mum work every day to make sure that we never went without. There were some nights where it looked like we were going to go without food, but Mum always worked hard, always made sure we had something to eat. She always made sure we were clothed and we were warm. It was not easy, and it was very hard. And seeing Mum work so hard created, and for me, the principle of hard working, regardless of her gender or whatever. She was my best friend. She was my mum. She was my everything, and I was her everything. And because I was the oldest, I was relied upon for a lot of things. I had to grow up a little bit quicker than most kids my age, because I had a lot more responsibility as a black kid. I'm the oldest black kid. That's always how it goes. I have more responsibility than, say, the oldest kid of a white family. It's just how we are. I had to make sure that whatever I do reflects well on my siblings. So even though as I'm saying this, I've got a pierced nose, Mum would always say, whatever you do, you got to remember that your siblings are watching you, and whatever you do, they will do it as well. So Mum always was against tattoos, against piercing and things like that. But it was always, hey, you're an example for your siblings, you're an example for the family. She has always instilled that in me of, you're an example. When people look at you, they're looking at you 3 times over when they're then compared to someone else. As a result of your skin, you're always held to a higher standard, and you always will have to work a little bit harder than the next person. You always have to prove yourself 3 times more than the other person. That's what she instilled in me. And she never let me just be lazy and do nothing. I looked after my little brother. I would feed him. I would change his nappies. I'll clean his butt. I would do a lot of things that I suppose the father would do. But obviously I didn't have my dad there at the time. So that was sort of like my responsibility, looking after my brother. I practically raised him while mum would work from day to night, working hard just to make sure there was food on our table. It was hard being on a refugee camp as a single woman because people will judge you and assume things. Not everyone there was there for good intention. Not everyone there was nice. Some people was cruel. They were mean, and they would, try and take advantage of a situation. But mum never gave up. She worked hard. She had her own demons to fight, and that's something I will discuss in a different episode. But regardless, she still worked her butt off. And that's where I gained a lot of my respect and a lot of my love, a lot of my understanding of what it is to be a man and what it is to be a mum, what it is to be a single mum, what it is to be a woman running away from a situation, trying to create a new life for her family. I love my mum, and she's the reason why I am the man I am today. Because of her. She never, ever let me get away with anything. She always challenged me. She never hid anything from me. She always used to say, when I was old enough now in Australia and I was old enough to be sexually active, she would always say to me, and she's a Christian woman. She was originally a Muslim woman, but Christian woman. She would say, David, I'll never say to you, don't have sex, but just know that if you have sex, it comes with added responsibility. You may get someone pregnant and you may catch something, a STI. That was who my mum was. She never said just because. She always said, no, this is why I'm telling you not to do this. So you knew why she was saying it. It wasn't just because. So all of that created this unbreakable bond with my mum. I think in some way it affected me, but it's sort of, it may be pushed to the back of our head. But the body doesn't forget that stress. The body doesn't forget that. If you go through something, getting kidnapped and not seeing your mum for 4 days as a little kid, that your body doesn't forget that. So I think as a result, there was this abandonment that I think has sort of seeped into my system that has sort of shadowed and colored me later on in life. And as a result, mum had her own trauma from it. So as a result, she grew tighter to me and I grew tighter to her and we became inseparable. And when I said that I was everything, I was everything. She'd confide in me and I'd confide in her. I'd go to her for everything. There was no secrets between my mum and I. We had a wonderful relationship. But it was as a result of what we went through, what happened. And I think that's very important, the relationship between a mother and her son. Very, very important. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode today. If you do have any questions, please let me know. DM me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform you can. And if you want to hear a lot more story, just let me know. Thank you for tuning in. As much as I enjoy doing this, it does take a lot of organization. It does take a lot of time. It does take a lot of finances and things like that. So if you enjoy what I'm doing, if you want to hear more from me, please, I do have a support link on my account. Please, anything, $1, anything would be, appreciated, or resharing this story with your friends and family. It would mean a lot to me. I do this because I'm hoping that my story will touch someone else. And guys would then, guys predominantly would be able to talk about their life and open up and not be afraid to. This is just the beginning. There's a long way to go. And I do love and appreciate you all to tune in. I'm not perfect. I'm not claiming to be perfect. All you haters out there, I'm not claiming to be perfect. I'm not trying to put a facade out there. I'm willing to put myself in this line of fire to discuss my lived experience. That's all I'm doing on here. My lived experience. That's all I know. But as a result, I want to hear about your lived experience. So get involved in the comment, please. And also, please support the page. Anything counts. Thank you. And next episode, we'll continue on to the rest of my life in Africa. Thanks, guys.